Defect management. Since one of the objectives of testing is to find defects, defects found during testing should be logged. The way in which defects are logged may vary, depending on the context of the component or system being tested, the test level, and the software development lifecycle model. Any defects identified should be investigated and should be tracked from discovery and classification to their resolution, e.g., correction of the defects and successful confirmation testing of the solution, deferral to a subsequent release, acceptance as a permanent product limitation, etc. In order to manage all defects to resolution, an organization should establish a defect management process which includes a workflow and rules for classification. This process must be agreed with all those participating in defect management, including architects, designers, developers, testers, and product owners. In some organizations, defect logging and tracking may be very informal. During the defect management process, some of the reports may turn out to describe false positives, not actual failures due to defects. For example, a test may fail when a network connection is broken or times out. This behavior does not result from a defect in the test object, but is an anomaly that needs to be investigated. Testers should attempt to minimize the number of false positives reported as defects. Defects may be reported during coding, static analysis, reviews, or during dynamic testing, or use of a software product. Defects may be reported for issues in code or working systems, or in any type of documentation including requirements, user stories and acceptance criteria, development documents, test documents, user manuals, or installation guides. In order to have an effective and efficient defect management process, organizations may define standards for the attributes, classification, and workflow of defects. Typical defect reports have the following objectives. Provide developers and other parties with information about any adverse event that occurred, to enable them to identify specific effects, to isolate the problem with a minimal reproducing test, and to correct the potential defects, as needed or to otherwise resolve the problem. Provide test managers a means of tracking the quality of the work product and the impact on the testing, e.g., if a lot of defects are reported, the testers will have spent a lot of time reporting them instead of running tests, and there will be more confirmation testing needed. Provide ideas for development and test process improvement. A defect report filed during dynamic testing typically includes an identifier, a title and a short summary of the defect being reported, date of the defect report, issuing organization, and author, identification of the test item, configuration item being tested, and environment, the development lifecycle phases in which the defect was observed, a description of the defect to enable reproduction and resolution, including logs, database dumps, screenshots, or recordings, if found during test execution, expected and actual results, scope or degree of impact, severity, of the defect on the interests of stakeholders, state of the defect report, e.g., open, deferred, duplicate, waiting to be fixed, awaiting confirmation testing, reopened, closed, conclusions, recommendations and approvals. Global issues, such as other areas that may be affected by a change resulting from the defect. Change history, such as the sequence of actions taken by project team members with respect to the defect to isolate, repair, and confirm it as fixed. References, including the test case that revealed the problem. Some of these details may be automatically included and/or managed when using defect management tools, e.g., automatic assignment of an identifier, assignment and update of the defect report state during the workflow, etc. Defects found during static testing, particularly reviews, will normally be documented in a different way, e.g., in review meeting notes. An example of the contents of a defect report can be found in ISO standard, ISO IEC IEEE 29119-3, which refers to defect reports as incident reports. Key takeaways. 1. Defects found during testing should be logged and investigated, and should be tracked from discovery and classification to their resolution. 2. Organizations should establish a defect management process which includes a workflow and rules for classification, and should be agreed with all those participating in defect management. 3. Testers should attempt to minimize the number of false positives reported as defects in order to have an effective and efficient defect management process. 4. Defects may be reported during coding, static analysis, reviews, or during dynamic testing or use of a software product, and may be reported for issues in code, working systems, or any type of documentation. 5. Typical defect reports have specific objectives and include various details, such as an identifier, a title and summary of the defect, expected and actual results, severity, and change history. 5. Defect management tools may automate some of these details.